Hi everyone, and welcome to our live stream about Metal Gear Solid, the board game. I am Elena. I'm joined today by designer Emerson Matsuuchi and producers Guilherme Goulart and Kenneth Ten. How are all of you? Let's start with Emerson. How are you, Emerson? Joining us
Oh,
for the first time.
yes, this will be the first time. Yeah, and I'm honored. Thank you for having me on. I'm very, very excited to be here.
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself to the audience really quickly? We'll
Oh,
do this.
certainly. My name's Emerson Matsuuchi. I'm a game designer. Probably my most notable designs are the Century series and Foundations of Rome. And now I'm also a designer for Metal Gear Solid.
And let's go clockwise. How are you, Guilherme? Can you introduce yourself as well?
I'm doing fine, thank you very much. This is me inside a cardboard box as much as I could. I'm joking.
It's
I'm fine.
spaces in there.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. My name is Guilherme Goulart. I'm a designer and producer here at Simon. You probably have seen me in other lives joining with Elena, other designers, other projects. Very glad to be here. Big fan of Metal Gear Solid and ecstatic to get to chat with you guys a bit about it.
And how are you, Kenneth? Finally.
I'm great. I'm Kenneth. I'm the lead producer of the Metal Gear Solid the board game. I'm stationed in Singapore. It is 12 a.m., but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Can you no, I was you know what? No, that's fine. I was going to say other games you've worked on, but I think people have seen plenty of you as well. You have been in a lot of these live streams.
For sure, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, thank you all as people are still joining us. But I think before we start our deep dive into the game, I think we could all watch the trailer together. What do you think?
Sounds great.
Sounds great. So let's move on to that. I'll see you all very soon. And
Where did that go?
where did Kenneth go, I wonder?
A cardboard
Just a
box.
cardboard box.
This just proves that our box, our boxes, the boxes our games come in, they are absolutely, you can absolutely fit inside them.
It's a gameplay component.
Yes,
Don't toss it out.
yes. Well, this is really exciting. I just love the trailer so much. I love that song. It's so iconic. Like, I'm already
Yeah.
pumped.
I think I've watched that trailer about 20 times now.
Okay, I already see. Yeah, if this game doesn't ship in a box, I can wear.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so starting off, before we dive in, I already see the $1,000,000 question here, and this is for you, Guilherme and Kenneth. No, not that's not it. Yes, that's
Me
it.
too. I just want to say me too to look at. I can't wait to play the final version of the game.
When will the pre-order end? So pre-orders have been open for around 5 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, a month or so. And when are we looking to close them?
The best answer I can give right now is yes. There's no definite date to close the pre-order as of yet. We, as Elena said, we generally keep them somewhere between a little over more than a month. So we're running close to that, but we still don't have a precise date to close that out yet. So we do intend to keep it for at least a few more weeks open, and we'll keep you posted when we have more precise news. Of
But
course,
there really isn't any reason to sleep on this anyway. If you really love the game, you should pre-order it right away. Why wait?
there you go.
They will be open for a while, but not forever. We will let you know about a week in advance when they are about to close, but decisions will have to be made at some point.
Oh, of course, we want to produce this baby and ship it out to you guys.
Yeah. Well, now let's talk about the game, shall we? So, what are we seeing here? What's in this big box? Emerson, can you introduce the game to us?
Oh yes, absolutely. So first off, I just want to mention like how much I love the box cover. The color palette is absolutely spot on. Yoji Shinkawa's art style is it brings back a lot of nostalgia for me here. So in this base game, so basically, this is going to retell the whole story. So retell the whole story of Shadow Moses. So it's great for anyone who has strong memories, fond memories of the video game. But it's also a worthwhile purchase for anyone who's not familiar at all. So it is another medium by which you can actually experience the whole Metal Gear Solid 1 story, because we went through painstaking effort to kind of recreate all the pivotal moments in the video game, all those memorable story beats in the video game. So basically, this is Metal Gear Solid in a box, if there ever was one, right?
What can you tell us about it, Guilherme?
Well, I remember when we first started discussing the game with Emerson that I was already intrigued, of course, by the story and the characters from the video game, having played them back then. Um, but I was particularly keen on seeing how we could translate that into a stealth action board game, which plays differently from most games I had played. Right, so it was to me very intriguing, the whole tactic play of outmaneuvering guards, figuring out their patterns, and waiting in ambush. All those memorable experiences you have. How do we translate that into a board game? I am just beyond ecstatic. Well, Kenneth and I have been working on this from day one here at Simon, and I just like most people out there. I just can't wait to get my own copy of the game.
Anything to add there, Kenneth?
I think Gaio said most of it. I think we were really happy with how what we have and how it turned out. It Metal Gear Solid, the video game itself was revolutionary in its time, and this translates very well. I think I'm as a fan, I'm super excited to play this board game as well. To kind of relive the memories of the video
Well, speaking about gameplay, can you guys guide us a bit through how it plays because it's very unique. There are a few different things you can do,
Oh,
and
yes.
I think I think it might be best if they hear from you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So what you're seeing here is actually one of our VR missions, but it's very representative of the type of gameplay that you can expect from the stealth portion of the game. So there's there's two main ways to play the game, or it's structured with two different types of encounters. So what you're seeing here is a sneaking stage where the object is to reach certain objectives, or each of these will have a particular set of objectives that you need to complete. And this stealth plays an important role because, as you can see on here, all the ones with the square bases are the guards, and you want to try as much as possible not to be seen by them, so that you can reach your objectives without drawing too much fire onto yourself. So each of the players are going to be controlling their characters, and in the dashboard, you could see that there's all these different options. Some of these options are stealthier options, but the stealthier options means that they're a little bit more limited in their efficacy. So, as an example, you can move, so you can move two spaces quickly, okay, or you can move just one space, but you can move one space stealthily. So you're going to need to make those decisions. The more non-stealthy actions you take, the higher the chance that you might draw the attention of a guard, right? You might make some noise and things like that, and then you might have a guard pursue you, which is part of like the tension, and it's representative of the same type of tension that you get in the video game. So I remember fondly just like waiting next to like a set of crates, waiting for a guard to pass by, but feeling that tension of am I going to be discovered, right? So it was a innovative mechanic in the video game world, and we wanted to translate that as much as possible into the board game world as well. So you could see that there's lots of different boards here with different objectives. So and we have quite a few varied scenarios. And I could talk about sort of like the boss battles, how they're different once we get to like the boss segment of the presentation.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that,
Mm.
if you're all watching us are curious about what Emerson just said, we do have a gameplay video coming up. We recorded it with the Dice Tower, and we'll do two because, as Emerson said, there are two very different kinds of stages: the sneaking stages and the boss stages. So they recorded two separate gameplay videos, and they will be going live tomorrow and Friday, 11 a.m. EST. Tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, we start with the boss battle,
Yep.
and they will play a sneaking stage on Friday. So we'll drop the link as soon as we have it in our social. Stay tuned for that. It was really, really fun. We watched them play it, and it was so much fun. So Emerson just introduced all the concepts, and if you want to see them in action, you will very soon.
Yes.
It's interesting seeing just this setup. I remember when I think the very first time I played the game with Emerson and Michael here from Simon, it was I think exactly this one. And what
It,
right?
yes, this is exactly the one. That's correct.
One of the biggest takeaways for me is that how well the board game brings that two distinct moments where yes, we were sneaking on the first tile. We managed to sneak properly, dodging the guards and taking them down silently. But one of us slipped up when we were on the second tile, which, of course, just like the video game, the experience changes a lot. Like at one moment you're kind of very tactically maneuvering around. Next moment, just bullets flying everywhere, and we're just kind of scrambling madly for our lives until we get the attention to drop down again. And of course, as I let Michael be the sacrificial bait, drawing all the guards, while I just jumped into a cardboard box in a corner. Right, and to me, that was yes, this is exactly it.
Yeah, I
Well,
remember that.
And of
Ken-
course, Michael went typical Guile.
of course you did. Well, Kenneth, um, can you tell us a little bit more, maybe, about how the patrols work in the game?
Right. So the patrols. So the map split up into zones, and each of the patrol you can tell that they are squares because they have facing. So facing is important in this game. And any of the players who is on the tile, all the patrols in that zone will activate, and they just walk around and just try to avoid the line of sight. Generally, it's a sneaking mission that
Yeah,
you sneak.
and the cool thing, like you said, the bases of the guards has a notch to indicate which way they're heading, and
Mhm.
as you can see on the map, there are areas where they rotate. So they do the board and the figures. They inform a pattern, right? So you can see how they're going to move up. They're going to rotate clockwise. They're going to go this way. So predicting how their behavior is going to be is key for you to stay undetected.
Mhm.
There's also the chance, right? Because they can turn left or right in certain corners based on the patrol card that's revealed. So there is a chance, like you just hope and pray that they don't turn and face you if you're in their line of sight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's a lot of the patrols, like you can sort of predict what their general pattern is, but there's that sense of uncertainty because you don't know exactly which way that they're going to turn.
Yeah. I
How did
wanted to
you
also
arrive?
give. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say I was just going to give a quick shout out to seeing this on the amazing art. The character art was illustrated by Marco Quequeto, whom we've collaborated with recently on Marvel Zombies as well. And then the tile artwork was by Henning Ludvigsen, which we've collaborated in a number of projects. You've seen him here most likely before. And I think they are both really true to the overall aesthetic and look and feel what we wanted to do, and also really at the same time just looking at those tiles there, I think it really harkens back to the video game.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely attest that after seeing the artwork on all the tiles, that like it is really spot on with the aesthetics from the original video game. Like when you look at them side to side, I have a strategy guide for the first video game, which has like the overhead view, three-quarters view of each of the maps. And Henning's art and illustration is just really, really spot on. So I mean, that first stage just brought so much nostalgia because it looked exactly like the cargo hold from the original video game.
I was actually just gonna say that it was actually a lot of thanks to your feedback as well, Emerson, when we were talking to Henning and then we were sending the tiles to Konami for approvals.
Mhm.
Like they really, you and them really gave a lot of good feedback into how the tiles should look, and that strategy guide with the layer, especially on
Mhm.
that furnace level, like
Mhm.
spot on. Like the
Yeah,
details are fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It is like a very faithful recreation of the video game.
Yeah. Speaking of that, speaking of nostalgia and recreation, I
Mhm.
see this interesting little component here, this
Is
little
that
deck.
that little memory box that we have over in that corner? Yes. So this is one of the interesting like progression mechanics in the game. So when you play the game, there are certain things that you can unlock. So we have a system by which, as you progress through the game, you will actually unlock equipment, very similar to how in the video game when you find new items, right? You now have those items at your disposal. So we have a very similar system where once you've unlocked, quote unquote, unlocked a piece of equipment, you can now store that, and in a way, it kind of stores your progress. So you, as the players, you can actually traverse and you can play whatever scenarios that you want. You are not bound to play the scenarios in a certain order. But the way to keep track of your progress through the campaign or through the VR missions is using that. So anything that you've unlocked, you get to store, and that is your progress. And it's also as a completionist myself, like I have a strong inside desire and urge to be able to unlock every equipment. So in a way, in this game, you can kind of go platinum by trying to unlock everything that the game has to offer.
Yeah, speaking of that, speaking of VR missions and campaign, I think that's something that's worth explaining as well because
Oh
there are
yeah,
two types of stages, the boss battles and the sneaking missions, and there are two types of gaming experiences, I
yes,
guess. Can
yes,
you tell
yes.
us more about that?
Oh yes, absolutely. Okay, so the red book on the right side here, that is actually the full Shadow Moses story. So if you want to relive the entire story of Metal Gear Solid 1, that is a campaign book, and it has 14 stages. 8 of which are boss battles too. So, and as you complete these stages, you will be unlocking equipment that you get to put, like we had mentioned, into that memory box. Now, the green book on the left side, that is the VR missions. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the video game, you probably remember that there were VR missions in there, but those VR missions were very like single purpose, very short, like they're almost like speed run type of challenges there. So, but we took the liberty of sort of expanding what VR missions can do because it was something that was that that do get referenced in future games where the VR missions can be very extensive. So we took sort of that approach, and the VR missions are more are they're actually meant to be played as like a single shot, so kind of like a one shot. Think of, let's say if we were to use like a role playing game, it would be sort of like a one shot adventure that you can have with your gaming group, where you could play 1 to 4 players. Whereas with the campaign book, I think most people will sort of be incentivized to play them in sequential order just so they have some continuity with the story. That being said, it's not necessary to do so, so you can move around. And there may be reasons why, which I'm going to get into. So whether you complete a mission in the campaign book or in the VR missions, you get to unlock certain types of equipment. I don't want to spoil too much, but let's say, for instance, you can unlock the chaff grenade, or you can say unlock the C4, right? And when you do, you get to actually put that in the memory box. And then in any future game, regardless of whether you want to do, say, like a one-shot mission, like you get some friends over, they haven't played through the scenario, but you guys just want to do, like, say, a sneaking mission, right? So you bust out the VR missions book, you choose one of the missions that's in there, you set that up, and then you open up the memory box to see what items you have unlocked, and then you have access to those items, and you can equip your characters. So basically, you can have your own little custom loadout. But then let's say once you've completed that VR mission, you've unlocked more because each mission will allow you to unlock a different piece of equipment. And then now you can actually take that. And let's say, for instance, you get together with your group that you've been doing the campaign with, and you decide, well, we're going to go and we're going to fight, say, Sniper Wolf. Right? Now you can reach into that box, and things that you've unlocked in the VR missions, you can then take those as options for how you want to do your loadout for any of the missions in the campaign book. So there is some crossovers there, and it's sort of like our way to entice the players to experience both not just the story, but also with the VR missions as well. So, and as a completionist, you're going to be incentivized to do both.
Wow. Okay, so they serve as a training room of sorts.
Yes, thematically, they are sort of like your training. Although that being said, though, I think a lot of the VR missions are the more challenging missions, though. And they're very, very replayable too.
Yeah.
Now, especially with the concept of that memory box, is that let's say you've unlocked lots of different equipment. Now you can sort of experiment with different equipment loadouts, right? So you may have done a VR mission, and let's say that your equipment loadout really supports being stealthy or being able to like disable guards to try to get away. And then let's say on a future play, you could play that exact same VR mission, but instead decide, hey, we're going to go with a full combat loadout, right? And then go in there guns a-blazing. So just like in the video game, stealth is usually encouraged, but it is not your only option. So you can go in there guns a-blazing. That being said, though, I would say that it does get a little harder the more you draw attention. So just bear that in mind.
Guile is just nodding knowingly.
He knows personally what I'm talking about.
Exactly, and it's like I said, I like how much that mimics the experience of playing the video game as well. Because yeah, it's riskier, it's hectic, and you have to balance those two moments.
I see an interesting question here, I think. How is shooting or close quarter combat resolved in this game? I think maybe we should go back to the other image to address that.
Oh, okay. So actually, the combat with the shooting, it's actually very, very simple because we wanted this to have broad appeal. So we didn't want to have like super complicated like line of sight rules and like distance and accuracy. and all that stuff. So the shooting is actually fairly straightforward. If you have line of sight, you can shoot them, and it is based on dice rolls, but there is a healthy dose of mitigation mechanics, which you can see in the tokens just underneath the player's dashboards, which allow you to modify dice rolls. And these tokens, once they're used, they get flipped, but then you can also spend actions to refresh them too. So there's a lot of management of your actions as your resource is a very strong mechanic that's prevalent in the game. Now, when it comes to CQC, so this is, I'm going to geek out a little bit here, in that CQC is something that was introduced in Metal Gear Solid 3. And so we don't actually have any sort of moves or actions that are CQC specific. And the reason that Snake did not use CQC in the first game is actually revealed in Metal Gear Solid 4 when he did actually use CQC. When he was asked like why haven't you always used CQC, he says that well because like he actually this might be a little bit of a spoiler, so I'll try to kind of summarize it a little bit. He says he didn't want to use it because it was developed by someone that was sort of an enemy of his. So that's the reason why CQC was actually not in the first game. In fact, there were a few mechanics that we really wanted to include, but they weren't in the first game. And we wanted to be as faithful to the IP as possible. Yeah. So I'm sorry, that was a long answer for a relatively short question.
Having said that, though, there are silent takedowns if you manage to position yourself right behind
Oh, yes.
a guard, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, Gal.
Oh, sure.
And I think we should also have combos, right, to take them down from the front as well.
Yes. Yes. So on the PlayStation 1, it was you had to hit the circle button 3 times, and you would do 2 punches and a kick, and that's actually represented.
Right, exactly.
Well, now
Also,
I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I also wanted to say because shooting in CQC, the patrols activate during the patrol turn while the players activate during the player turn. So these never really interrupt. So while they can shoot you from the distance, after they shoot you and you start your turn to activate, you probably can go in close to take them out.
Yes,
If
yes, absolutely. So you can actually approach them to use so hand-to-hand combat as well as the combo attacks. And like Gal had mentioned, you could do silent takedowns as well.
yeah.
Also, I think important to say that they don't. The guards don't react this to the characters. They react to corpses that are left behind. They react to guards that are knocked out, not corpses. The cameras react to those. It's really something. Yeah, something
Yes,
special.
yeah, we did. We spent a lot of time, and I do mean a lot of time, trying to recreate a lot of those interactions, like those line of sight interactions. So, like Kyle said, like cameras will react to you, and they function very similarly. Guards will react to noise that you can make, so you can intentionally make noise. So, for those who remember, you can always knock on
Yeah.
objects. Yep. So you push back against the wall and you hit the circle button, and then you would knock, and then that would draw the guard's attention. We have that exact mechanic in this game as well.
I think now we move on to talk about the characters in the game, and to introduce that, I just want to pick a question by our very own Michael Schnall. Who is your favorite character in the series, and why is it Revolver also?
That's a really good question. Yes, Revolver Onslaught is, and here we may delve into like spoiler territory, but yeah, he is an incredibly pivotal and very multifaceted character. So he is definitely one of my favorite characters for sure. So, and I was just rewatching some gameplay footage from some of the previous games, and yeah, Onslaught is such a great deep character. It's amazing. But yeah, there's many characters that I like in the whole Metal Gear series for sure. Do you guys have a specific characters that you guys are that is your favorite character from Metal Gear Solid?
Mm, Let's see. From this game, from Metal Gear Solid, I think Solid Snake. I like the journey that he goes through. I like
Mm.
the like you empathize, right? You
Yes.
kind of go through his shoes, kind of the discovery, the many twists and turns. Yeah, I think it's designed that way, and it works very well with me.
I like Otacon personally. I think the geek nature appeals to me, and I'm very non-confrontational.
Yeah.
I was going to say Otacon as well. I love how normal he is, like
Right.
in this whole situation.
Yes. And
Um,
then
uh, Sorry, one more question before we move on.
sure.
Why does the campaign book, and let's go back to the campaign book for that one, say 1, 2 players and 1, 4 players?
Oh, okay. Yes. So this is interesting. So because we follow the story of Shadow Moses. So remember in the beginning, Snake is by himself, and in fact, the uh, first two stages of the campaign book actually serves as part of the rules explanation as well. So it's sort of like a construct in a lot of modern video games where you learn as you play. So we adopted sort of something similar where when you jump into it, it actually just jumps you into sort of that first mission to explain how the rules work. So the first two stages are actually meant to be played solo. So you don't actually have the option to play with other players, but it's actually there to explain the rules to whoever purchased the game. This is the rules explanation. So the onboarding of the rules is actually done through those first two stages. Now, after that, we introduce Meryl Silverberg, which becomes a playable character, and then it is 1 to 2 players for several of the missions. So this is why you can actually move back and forth depending on how many players you'd like to play with. So if you have 2 players, you can actually play the stages where it is Snake and Meryl. So for instance, like the first time you meet Meryl, you guys are in what's called the map is called the holding cells, and then you're fighting waves of guards. So that's like the first scenario that you can actually play 2 players. And then as the story progresses, then then the cyborg ninja and Otacon get introduced, and then that's when you get to unlock the other characters. And then from that point, once Otacon and Gray Fox are unlocked, then from that point forward, then it's a 1 to 4 player game. So you can play the last half of the scenario book, and up to 4 players.
And
Yeah,
just to clarify, that's valid for the campaign, not the VR missions, right?
so the VR missions are always 1 to 4. So you can play uh, uh, so any number of players, up to 4 players. You can play VR missions. You can play them solo as well. And with the scenario book, the characters are sort of preset as to which characters will be used for each of the different stages in the scenario book. But with the VR missions, you actually have total freedom as to which character you'd like to play. So you can actually do a full VR mission with Otacon if you'd like. So that's definitely possible. It's a totally different experience than say playing Gray Fox, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's why there's so much replayability in that, and that you can have different, not just different equipment loadouts, but you can try the VR missions with the different characters too, because they all have their different unique abilities.
Hey. I see a question that's very specific, but maybe we can take it quickly before we move on. I said like 10 minutes ago we were moving on to the characters, and then
Yeah.
we in which part of the round are the cameras activated?
Oh, okay. So it is a very, very specific question. But okay, so the general structure of it is that all the players take their actions, and then it is the enemy's turn. And the cameras are actually part of the enemy's turn. So at the start of each of the enemy's turn, we actually flip over a card, and that card will then give you instructions on how reinforcements are repopulated on the board if there is any to be placed. Then it goes through a camera step, which will then determine which way the cameras are facing. And then it goes into the guard activation, where one by one each of the guards will activate based on whether your exclamation point token is on the board, or if there is a suspicion token, that little blue question mark that you see in the video game, if that's on the board, or if there are, say, bodies on the board. Let's say if you killed a guard and its body is on the board, and so forth. That would then influence how each of those guards work. So the cameras are activated just before the guards activate, which means that if you are seen by the camera, then during the guard's activation, they'll be coming after you. So you do need to be careful of those cameras. That's a great question, though.
Okay. Okay, shall we move to the characters?
Absolutely.
Yay! Okay, so here we have the heroes, the 4 playable characters in Metal Gear Solid, the board game. Can you introduce us to them in case people watching us aren't familiar?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'll go from left to right. So we have the iconic Solid Snake uh, with his pistol and silencer on there. Then next we have the Cyborg Ninja, or known as Gray Fox, and he's got his was it the high frequency blade, I believe is what it's called. So next to him we have Otacon with holding his laptop, and he is the hacker of the group. And then finally we have Meryl Silverberg, who's got her famous set of weapons, her assault rifle and her very, very powerful handgun there. One thing I got to draw attention to this, because I love these little touches here. So you can see on their bases that there's actually like little items, and each of those items are kind of representative of like their character too. So you can see, just as an example, I don't want to spoil everything, so I love players to take a look at those bases when they get their copy. But you can see that Solid Snake, he's got a cardboard box right on his base, which is just incredibly iconic. So I think that's fantastic. One thing I want to mention in terms of the gameplay, that each of the characters actually has they do have like very standard set of actions that they can all do. So for instance, they can move, they can interact with the elevator and so forth. But each one of them has a very character specific set of not just special abilities. Like for instance, when Gal had mentioned the silent takedown, that's actually one that's specific for Snake. So only Snake can do the silent takedown. So, and Gray Fox, he's got his special set of special abilities. They also have special equipment too. So for instance, Gray Fox is the only one that can use that high frequency blade. And he's the only one that can like deflect bullets with it and so forth. So each one has like their own special like characteristics to them. So Gray Fox is the one that can deflect bullets. So if you think of it as a typical like RPG, like an MMO RPG sort of setting, or like those tropes. So like I would see that Snake is sort of like the rogue figure. He's focused on a lot with stealth, attacking from behind. So he's very much like your thief or your rogue in like your typical fantasy RPG group. Then you have Gray Fox, who's able to like he can take hits, and that's one of the mechanics that's very specific to him, is that as he takes hits, it powers up his other abilities as well. So in an MMO sense, he's sort of like your tank. Meryl she's the heavy damage dealer, so she's able to use guns, and she's the one that can actually deal more damage when doing so. And then finally, Meryl would be sort of like your DPS, right? Your DPS class. And then finally, you have Otacon, who is not able to use weapons, and I'm going to put weapons in quotes there because there are some really interesting gameplay mechanics that's associated with that. But his special abilities allow him to influence the rest of the battle. So he can actually hack into terminals, and by doing so, he can like move cameras around. He can actually distract guards. He can open like the locked doors. So he is like your quintessential support member of the team. So there's quite a few dynamics in there, but there's a certain analog to some of the tropes that we're so used to in like these team-based like MMORPG style games.
These are renders, but Kenneth brought with him real figures, which we can take a look as well. While you guys from production tell us a little bit more about art and minis and sculpting for these because they do look great.
For sure. I'm a huge fan of Maho Kiketo's art from the work that he did for Marvel Zombies. There's a lot of tidbits and small bits and pieces, like Emerson said, for each of them. If I could, I would like to point up a few more. We see the ration cans on Snake's base. We also see a ketchup bottle, a handkerchief, and what looks like a puddle on Otacon space as well. The arm cannon on Grey Fox. And yeah, you can take a closer look, and there are these little tidbits to who the characters are. If you saw the trailer, actually, we also have something else. We have the alt figures for them, not alt so much as the disguises. So when Snake unlocks, obviously, the most iconic cardboard box, and Meryl, very specifically to her, she has her disguise outfit.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, just a few comments there. These figures are about 35 or 34 millimeters to the
34.
eye. Yeah,
Yep.
so just a little taller than what we usually do. Um, and making these special bases not only allows to add Easter eggs and not not just to the personalities, but also just allow us to do such cool poses. Like you see there, it allows to have very dynamic figures. Um, from our end is something also that we very lovingly crafted to find the iconic silhouettes, the imagery that you really will connect with, and on that we were very fortunate to work with an incredibly talented team at Big Child Creatives for the sculpts, um, which we are very very excited with as well. And of course, that cardboard box is just the cherry on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to point out that the Meryl's disguise figure, I mean, that is really, really well done. Like you can tell that that is Meryl in disguise especially when you compare it to like the standard guards, right?
I think we can
Oh,
do that.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. We had to
Yeah.
pay close attention to how their body shapes were. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we made sure to sculpt Meryl's disguise from scratch to give her a more slender, sort of feminine touch to it. Even the boots, the way her pants are folded into her boots, are a little bit different from the standard, yeah, soldiers, the genome soldiers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these that we're seeing here on camera are plastic
So
samples,
no, these are
resins,
resin samples. Yeah.
resins.
And you can see something you mentioned earlier, which is the bases for the patrols that have the little notch on them telling which way they are facing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Really cool as well. Sorry, can we just see the box once again? Because there is a cool touch there that I'm not sure if it's visible. You can see Snake's little feet.
Yeah, you can. Hold on, sorry. Let me. Can I? I oh, sorry. I'm blocking the light, aren't I? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
you
can
can.
see his feet.
Yes, you
We
can.
didn't want to go just give you like a small box. Of course, we give you the feet.
Yep.
Hold on, let me
That's
see
nice.
if I can shine a light on the feet. Does this work? Hold on, let's have it turn
We're
around.
all holding our breaths here.
I know
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my handphone camera to light up
There
the
you
feet,
but
but does it
We
does
we,
it show?
we saw the silhouette.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
All
see
right.
the feet there. Oh, that's fantastic.
Love
Yeah,
it.
and the way the cardboard kind of folds onto the floor, like the flaps, like it's
Mhm.
soft.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Wow,
Mhm.
that's we have. I don't think we've done a mini like that before. It is.
And we've done
It
quite a
is.
few minis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really cool.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a
So
Metal Gear game without the cardboard box.
yeah, when we first, I think that might have been the comment I've seen the most ever since we announced the game. Like, is there a box? I love how the box is so iconic. Yeah, really cool.
But there's even more figures to show, right?
Yes. Shall we move on to the bosses?
Oh
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there
So
are six of them, right? And I'm showing five because one of them we've already seen.
And
correct. That's correct. Yes.
Yep.
So there are six figures. So folks who are familiar know that Gray Fox is also the cyborg ninja. So when he's called cyborg ninja, he's actually in his boss form. Right? And then at a certain point in the scenario book, he goes from being cyborg ninja to becoming Gray Fox, and then you can play him as a playable character. And of course, on the VR side, he's always open as a playable character. So, and like I mentioned, we do have eight boss stages in the scenario, and you're seeing five of those right here, which look absolutely fantastic. And again, got to draw attention to the details on their bases too. Yeah, especially like I love Psycho Mantis and like all the things that he uses his telekinesis to and then launch them as projectiles at the players and so forth. Yeah, so all the touches are fantastic here. So, oh, actually, can I take this opportunity to then go over sort of like how the boss battles work?
Yeah, of course. And while you do that, let's take a look at the real thing here. Go ahead.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so I'll use let's say like Revolver Ocelot as like an example. So each of the bosses has their own stage. So there is actually a board that has the stage where you fight Ocelot, and it does depict Kenneth Baker like strapped to the center pillar with lines coming out attached to C4 and so forth. So each of these boards has specific rules. So obviously you can't touch the C4 and you're trying to fight Ocelot, and each of the bosses has their own little mini deck of actions. So in a similar way that when you're playing the stinking missions, the patrols has their own deck of cards. Uh, the bosses, each one has their own specific deck of cards, which dictate its behavior in combat. Now, each of the bosses has their own sort of like movement pattern. They also have their own attack pattern. And as you fight against the bosses, it becomes a little bit of a puzzle as to like what is the right way to approach it. And I'd like to mention that like when I was testing or getting feedback from some of the playtesters, one of them did mention or did thank me to say that, hey, Ocelot feels exactly like it was in the video game. So, yeah, so that made me incredibly happy. They also did mention that he was a real pain in the video game, which he absolutely was. So, and we try to capture all those types of mechanics and those experiences. So each one of these bosses has a completely different set of mechanics. In fact, when we were developing this, it's almost as if we are developing a different game for each. Like basically, we're developing a mini game for each of the bosses. So each one has its own little development cycle, its own testing cycle, and iterations, and so forth. So there was a lot of work put into refining each of these as they're very very unique experiences, and all separate from one another too.
And Revolver Ocelot is the boss that Tom Vazo and Z Garcia from the Dice Tower will take down in tomorrow's gameplay video.
Mhm.
And you will be able to see that happen in real time, like them learning
Mhm.
the weaknesses and strengths of the boss and trying to come up with a plan to counter that.
Mhm.
Anything you watched that live as well, didn't you, Guilherme? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, we were backstage, right? Watching and just sending a few comments here and there, right? It was fun, right? I don't want to get too much into it, but yeah, Z and Tom tomorrow be playing against Ocelot, and just like Emerson said, it really harkens to um, what the experience was like. I think first time you faced that encounter in the video game. I don't want to say much more, but it is fun to see their journey across that scenario.
Yeah, and I see a fun question here, which I don't think you should answer, but maybe we can dance around it. Do you defeat Psycho Mantis by tearing up his car?
Yeah,
We're not telling, but what can you tell us?
yeah, we can't go too much into it, but just know this is that we did do something special for Psycho Mantis. So yes. So there's no controller port 2 in the box, but we tried our best to kind of give you guys something that is very Psychomantis-ish in a way.
Emerson dances very well around questions. I like that.
This is a sweet question. How long have you guys been working on this game for? So
Oh,
Emerson goes first, and then Gillian and Kenneth.
okay. So for those who know, I've been working on this game quite a long time, and in fact, I mentioned to Gal and Helena that I have this. So if you see like older interviews where like I'm on the dice tower and things like that, that you'll notice that there's this board all the way back here, or on that whiteboard. I actually have a map over there, and that map is actually the map of the heliport. So you could see that that's been on that board for close to I would venture to say 3 to 4 years at least that we've been working on this. So definitely it's this has been like a passion project for me. So I don't think there's been a project that I've been more passionately involved with than this one. So it has been a very, very long time for me personally.
Yeah. What about you, Guilherme and Kenneth? When did you come in the project?
Kenneth and I joined around the same time. Once we started working on the project here at Simon, if memory serves, that was around this time of the year in 2021. I think we're like 2 years since Kenneth and I have been working on this one.
Wow. Yeah. Going back to the bosses really quickly. Speaking of bosses, Hindy, Tank.
Yes, yes. So we do have both of those encounters included as well.
Yeah.
Correct. You may not see them here as figures, just to clarify, because we did mention 8 bosses. You see 5 on screen plus Cyborg Ninja, and the combat helicopter and the tank are in the game represented by large tiles, and which is something that really connects well with the gameplay, because not to enter into the tactics, but the positioning around them is important. The way you interact with them, the areas around them and such. So we designed them gameplay first. There's a large tile for each of them inside the core box. So yeah, those encounters are there as well.
For sure. Not just around them, but like even on them. The tiles themselves serve a gameplay function for those specific bosses, which is
Yeah.
exactly why they are in that format.
Yeah.
Now I think we're almost out of time, so let's move to what I think will be the last segment here. Thank you for sharing. I'm extremely excited. This is my favorite game of all time. I've already pre-ordered 2 copies. Oh wow! And do you have any Rex models to show off? So yes, that brings us to the last thing we'll be sharing today, I guess, which are the exclusives for the pre-order edition, the Integral edition.
I gotta say, for a second there, my brain went, "What if the answer was no? No, we don't have it." So
yeah, it's always a risk.
Oh, gear.
yeah, thank you very much, Connor, for the question and for the support. Really appreciate
Yeah.
it. Very good slide to show off a bit of the Integral Edition exclusives. So just to touch base on that as well, I think it's important. The pre-order is for this very special version or edition of the game. This is Metal Gear Solid, the board game, the Integral Edition, which is a large box, a deeper box than what will later go on to retail, because it includes these 2 special editions that you're seeing here on screen. Disregard Solid Snake there; he's on both editions. So it includes the figure for Metal Gear Rex, which we see there on the left, and it includes I don't want to say a number of pages, but a very generous retelling of the story, illustrated by Kenneth Lowe, which we were just very excited to be able to bring into the board game. So this is a new way, a new media to experience the story in a comic book format that is meshed and integrated into the campaign itself. Probably a little hard to see there, but on the bottom of the page, the spread we see to the right, there are coda conversations. Those are also, there are cues. There's information that connects to the actual gameplay. So that's those two rewards are only found in the Integral Edition, the Metal Gear Rex figure, and the campaign book, which has comics from all the interactions there, including even um, a scenario. I'm trying to dodge to kind of be very clear on how to say this. It's There's the scenario where player agency matters to the outcome. There's even a different way to experience sort of a what if scenario inside that story. So we were very fortunate to be able to bring this as a special reward for the Integral Edition.
Yeah. And while these are renders, Kenneth did bring the real thing, and we can take a look at it because it's impressive,
Whew.
honestly.
So big.
And
The rest of my
Wow.
display is shown.
Wow, that's huge.
That's when we go Metal Gear Rex.
that is wow. So the miniature is exclusive to the Integral Edition, and in the future retail edition, how will it work?
So it will the retail edition will have, of course, all the gameplay there, but Metal Gear Rex will be a large game tile, much like the combat helicopter and the tank, because of course the encounter is still there. You know, the gameplay significance is still there. And then on the campaign, you won't get to have the all the dozens of all the pages of the comic book that's in there. It'll be more about the conversations and the scenarios. But yes, so this large figure only comes in the Integral Edition, and that's also why even the footprint of the box has to be larger to accommodate. If you're buying the pre-order, this is the only edition you can get and you will get.
Yeah. Which kind of addresses a question I saw earlier on, which is will the pre order exclusives fit inside the box or will they come separately? Yes, this is a big box.
100%. I think what we are intending to do is that the Rex figure itself is detachable, so we will separate it into maybe two or three pieces so that it will fit more ergonomically into the box to try to save as much space as we can. But yeah, it's huge, it's large, it's a great centerpiece for the game.
Well, I think we are almost at the end here. So I guess I will ask you guys if you have any final words for the audience and we'll say our goodbyes. What do you say? Let's start. So, Emerson, any
Yeah.
final words?
Well, I just want to say thank you everyone for being so patient.
Yeah, true. Guilherme?
Oh, I'm next. I think it will sound corny, but to me, it's like seeing a bit of a dream come true. Really, like when we started talking, discussing the project internally, it's fun to be at this moment when we're recalling when we just got started, everything that we wanted to achieve, all the possibilities, and seeing it live here. It's very rewarding, and I'm very grateful for all the support that we've seen so far, and just really excited to get this game out there.
Finally, Kenneth?
Um, I'm just happy to be here. This project this project's great. I'm really happy to be working on it. I can't wait to put it on everybody's tables and really just don't sleep on the pre-order and
Yeah,
get going, get it now. It's
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
yeah. Yeah, pre-orders are still open. They will be for a while, but not that long. So stay tuned because we will post about it when we are 1 week away from closing. But I guess we covered the bulk of it. I think this game has a lot of unique features to it, and I'm glad we could get the time to explain it to everyone. It has several different kinds of gameplay and encounters, etc. So I'm really happy. And just a reminder, once again, stay tuned for the live gameplay from the Dice Tower tomorrow and Friday, 11 a.m. EST. These were really fun, and we can't wait to show them off. And well, thank you all for joining me. Thank you all in the audience for joining us, and I hope to talk to you all very soon.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.